And thank you for joining me on this multi-part, huge English pronunciation, fluidity, and speech lesson. I think by the time you are done with this lesson, you will have greatly improved. You will feel more confident. You will feel better able to produce natural sounds in English. All those opportunities are opening as we become better speakers. Remember, it's not about whether or not you can get your message across. It's how you get that message across. So sit back, enjoy, follow the ORCA method precisely, specifically. There's only 9 sounds, no more. And that's all you need to memorize is 9 patterns. And then the triggers will show you what to do with the rest. So best of luck, enjoy, and here we go.
So how do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? Data gathering, as you may get in books, apps, or on the internet, will give you facts. But data alone is like numbers without an equation. We need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only after we've understood the systems that drive our behaviors. Our goal is to think differently about others and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think about the particular culture of your destination or people with whom you are working.
Great, so let's start with a identification of the E and I sounds. So first, the E is a double time sound. So when I say double time, it's not just E, but E. So we stretch the American E, and on the complete opposite side is the I. Now, you will need maybe a teacher or lots of practice to get that sound, I. I can't help you because I'm not working with you directly, but a teacher can help you. Once you identify, everything else is easy, but you've got to get that sound perfectly. So E and I. Now remember, there is no sound between the E and the I in English. Never. Phonetically, there are 6 different sounds, but we don't actually say them. So don't worry about phonetics. There's only E and I. So nothing in between. So let's get started with identification, E and I. And from now on, every time you see an arrow up, we're going to associate it with the E sound, and every time you see an arrow down, we're going to associate it with the I sound. This way, you can be corrected and practice without being given the sound. Very, very important. So let's go to the application phase and start with the E and I. So how do we begin? So E, I. We begin. So there's 2 I. Begin. Try that. Begin. Instead of begin, nobody says begin. Begin. I. So E begin. E begin. How do we begin? To learn about cultures in I, the most. And now here's one of the interesting words. It's either effective or effective. So either I or effective. So both are fine. That's why we have an arrow up and why we have an arrow down. In the most effective way. Data gathering, I, as you may get in books, in books, apps, or on the internet, will give you facts. But data alone is like numbers without an equation. And again, another interesting word, equation or equation. We need a story. So we need double time. A story. We need to bring together the critical data, critical data only after we have understood the systems that drive our behaviors. Behaviors or behaviors. Behaviors. Both are fine. Another interesting word. Our goal is to think differently. Differently. That's another interesting word because it's not differently, it's different differently about others and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series, look at that double, in this series, so it's Look at that sequence. That's an interesting phrase. So in this series is practice that. So in this series is not to teach you what to think, but to think about the particular culture of your destination. Destination or people with whom you are working. So the trick is with these programs, you don't want to listen to me correct it. You want to try to first say it all by yourself. Even record yourself because you have the triggers. And then you can hear the difference between the way you say it and the way I say it. So now on to the sound. So how do we begin to learn about cultures? Okay, so let's identify this sound. The sound is a thinking cloud, because when we think, we say like that. But it's not like it's way down in the throat, and there is no or all or any kind of rounded sound with your mouth. It's just How do we think about culture? So to identify, practice with your teacher or on our online program. It'll help you practice, but you have to get the sound before you continue. So now we will associate the sound with thinking cloud. So see that little cloud? Every time you see the cloud, you must say the sound every time. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. So, buts. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So how do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? In the most effective way. Data, there's that again. So English is always repeating, always the same sounds. Data, gathering, as you may get in books, apps, or on the internet, will give you facts. But data, so you see that sound? But data alone is like numbers without an equation. We need a story. We need a story. Every time you see the cloud, it's we need a story. Not a story. Be careful. It has to be the same exact sound. So what do our students do? They find a trigger word. There is a word where you can say it correctly. So for example, many of our students can't say but they can say, for example, his or in, and I remind them, go back to your trigger word to find the sound. So you have to find a trigger word, a word you can always go back to remind you that it's not it's You hear that difference? We need a story, not we need a story. So we need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only after we have understood the systems that drive our behaviors. Our goal is to think differently about others, and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think about the particular culture. And here's an interesting word, of your destination or with whom you are working. So of will always have the thinking cloud. So go ahead back and reread this without my audio to try to get the sound correctly. And now on to voice on and voice off with the TH voiced and TH off, and also S and Z and F and V. So first we're going to do S and Z and F and V for voice on and voice off. So to identify, you'll need to do 4 seconds of a sound, and we're going to use the letter S and the letter V and F to do this. So follow along. Step 1 is 4 seconds, then you're done. So we have an S. Make sure you get that perfectly. If you need help, you need to get a teacher. Remember, many people spend years practicing English, but they won't get a teacher to help them fix one sound. So any American, any teacher will be able to get you that sound. It might take some practice, but you've got to get a clean S. Full stop. So that's 4 seconds. Now I want you to turn on your voice box and do 4 seconds with a Z. That's the same thing as an S with the voice on. So S is like this. Z is like this. Z. It's exactly the same mouth position. No difference. So now we have S and now we have Z. So what do we do next? Now we alternate. We turn the voice box off and we turn the voice box on. And for 4 seconds, we try to do 4 times each variation without stopping the sound, without stopping the breath. So listen to this. I didn't stop the breath. I just did an S. And I turned on my voice box. Nothing changed. My lips didn't change. My tone didn't change. And variation didn't change. It's the same exact S. And I turned on the voice box. Now we can try the same with an F. Like that. So you're turning voice box on and off. So every time you see the small Wi-Fi, it's an S. It's a voice off, or an F. So feel would have that, or see would have that. Every time you see a strong Wi-Fi signal, it's a Z, strong voice on, or V, right? So is S. How do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? The most effective, it's on way. So I want you to go through this text and really emphasize, in English, the Z's are very strong. Most people don't realize. They say, for example, cultures. It's cultures. We really throw it on there. Data gathering, and now you'll notice, by the way, I have to say, we are ignoring TH because we will do TH in just a minute. So right now we're doing S and Z and F and V voice ons. So data gathering as you may get in books. It's just an S. Books. Apps. You see that? Ps. And it's not Z. So books, apps, or on the internet will give you facts. But data alone is like numbers. You hear that? Numbers. So strong. That Z. Numbers without an equation. We need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only voice off. After. Not after. We have understood the systems. So it's z. So you see how that practice of turning on the voice box and off helps systems that drive. Listen to that. Drive. The V is so strong. Our behaviors. Behaviors. Our goal is to think differently about others and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series, you hear that? This series is, so we have in this series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think about the particular culture of your destination or people with whom you are working. So really emphasize your S's and your Z's. Very, very important in English. And now we can do the TH. So how do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? Every time you see the Wi-Fi signal with the arrow, what is that arrow? It's the same strong sound. We know the Wi-Fi signal means voice on. Well, the TH is not a pop. It's not this, that. It's not like a D. It's a very increasing rate sound. So it starts with nothing. This, and it increases. That's what the arrow is. It's showing you it's building. This. Think. And it has to be about a second long when you first start. So when we have a voice on, it's the. But when we have a voice off, it's thank you. Thank. So the same thing, increase the rate. You can't do this, that. You must stretch it into this, that. And don't try this. Don't say this. Because this, the way I'm saying it, has the same strength in the beginning and the end. You want the strength at the beginning to be small, almost imperceptible. This. You see how it grows? You're going to have to get a teacher maybe or do our online to practice it perfectly. So your identification phase is critical. You shouldn't move ahead until you get this sound. But think about ORCA. Once you have this sound, every time you see this symbol, it's the or th. It's that easy. And then all you do is read and get corrected. So how do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? Data gathering, data gathering, as you may get in books, apps, or on the internet, will give you facts. But data alone is like numbers without. All you do is put your tongue between your teeth and breathe. Without an equation. We need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only after we have understood the systems that drive our behaviors. Our goal is to think differently about others, and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think. Make sure it's clear. Never confuse the two sounds. It's either strong the or it's weak th. Particular culture of your destination or people with whom you are working. And now let's go on to the aw sound. So how do we begin to learn about cultures? Well, aw in the identification phase is drop the jaw. Aw. We drop the jaw. Aw. I made all the calls to the mall because I wanted to buy a small ball in the fall. Aw. And we don't finish the L. We don't say all. I made all the calls. No, we say aw. We just drop the jaw. Get that teacher to help you 1 hour, 2 hours. Think about it for the rest of your life. If you get it, you're done. So call. Every time you see this arrow down, it means drop the jaw. And every time you see it, you better make the aw sound. That's it. So how do we begin to learn about cultures? All. There's the all. Cultures in the most effective way. Data gathering, as you may get in books, apps, or on. There's that on the internet will give you facts. But data alone is like numbers without an equation. We need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only after we have understood the systems that drive our behaviors. Our goal is to think differently about others and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think about a particular culture, particular culture of your destination or people with whom you are working with. So from now on, the word are is all. Are. Try that on your own. There's not many in the text, but try it on your own. Now we have the sound ah. And we identify it as a surprise because it's aha, with an exclamation mark. So if you can say aha, you can trigger the sound. So every time you see an exclamation mark, it's ah. So how. So how do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? Data gathering, as you may get in books, apps, or on the internet, will give you facts, but data alone is like numbers without an equation. We need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only after we have understood the systems that drive our behaviors. Our goal is to think differently. Remember back in about. About. So it's not about with an Remember, go back to the sound. About. That's an interesting word. About. Others. About others. Ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series is not not to teach you what to think, but how to think about the particular culture of your destination or people with whom you are working. And let's try O. So how do we begin? So is basically O and oo. If you have an O in your language, flat O, and you have an oo, put them together. Oh, so. And that's the round American long O. Every time you see the OU symbol, make the O sound. Unconditionally. So identify it first. If you are ready, if you have the O sound, let's go. So how do we begin to learn about cultures in the most effective way? Data gathering, as you may get in books or on the internet, will give you facts. But data alone is like numbers without an equation. We need a story. We need to bring together the critical data only after we have understood the systems that drive our behavior. Now remember, if you don't see an O, it will never be an O. So look at this sheet. Any words. So for example, apps or on, if you think or on, it's O or on. It's not. It's or. It's not O. You must know that every time you see the O symbol, that's only where it is, nowhere else, only. So let's continue. Only after we have understood the systems that drive our behavior, our goal is to think differently. There's no more after that. Our goal is to think differently about others and ourselves while working abroad. Our goal in this series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think about the particular culture of your destination or people with whom you are working. So there's no more O's, but O is an important one. And now we have the the famous sound. So how do we begin to learn about cultures? Let's identify the This is a tough one. This is where you will need to be on the online program practicing, or get a teacher, any American. Maybe even stop someone on the street, say, "Excuse me, sir, can you help me say the Because it's not impossible. Once you get the these triggers will change the way you speak English, because you can read and correct yourself. So if you can get an then do something we call a punch in, punch out technique. You take the for 4 seconds and you make a beautiful, flat, clear full stop. That's it. Nothing more. Not modulated. Don't do anything like that. Just cup your tongue in the back of your throat. Just like that. Now, in the middle of that, force a sound. Force a consonant. Push in a consonant and then let go. Sir. I didn't stop the I kept doing the sir, and then I just forced in the S, and magically the sound sir came out. Well, that's step 2. Step 3 is now to repeat that sound and to make a word. So I will say the word service, but I will do step 1, full stop. I will do step 2, sir, and now I will do step 3. Sir, service. We've had students that were saying sabisu their whole life, and in 10 minutes, they say service beautifully. This is the trick. You have to isolate the from being a dependent variable sound to an independent sound. So now that you've identified you will see letters in a bracket. What do these letters mean? These are the sounds you punch into the So let's take a look at the second one. Okay, not the first one, the second one. The first one is TR, and I'll get to that in just a second, but there's TH. So the is the sound. So let's do step 1, full stop. Step 2, full stop. And then step 3, gathering. There's the But why did we skip the TR? Because TR and DR are part of what we call the TR-DR rule. Basically, anytime you see the letters TR in English, pretty much 99%, the sound will not be a T. It will be a ch. And do you have a ch in your language? Of course you do. Japanese has chiba, right? Polish has chiho, right? Think about it. Cheese. Ch-ch-ch. So every time you see a TR, the sound is ch-ch-ch. So Trevor trained and he tried on a tree. Ch-ch-ch. And every time there's a DR, it's j. Now what are we punching in? We're not punching in a TR. We're punching in this ch sound. So full stop. Now second step. Chur, full stop. Now third step, repeat, and then say the word. Here we go. Chur, culture. Culture. Do you hear the ch in culture? That's it. So with ORCA, having the TR there, you know you're punching in the ch sound because it's the TR rule. Just like tree and try, or DR rule, just like drain and drip. So Trevor trained a truck driver to dry dripping drains. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch, j-j-j-j-j. It's that easy. So TR is ch, DR is j. So how do we begin learning about cultures, cultures, in the most effective way? Data, they're gathering, as you may get in books, apps, or on the here we go, internet. So it's just the T you're punching in. We'll give you facts, but data alone is like numbers without an equation. We need a story. So you're punching in an O, story. We need to bring. We need to bring together critical. So critical. Data only after we already did T. We have under, so understood. That's what you're winding up. It's very important to go back to punching in. You're punching in each time, understood. And each time the is the same. We have so many students where the changes depending on what letter's in front of it. That's too crazy. So here we have a DR rule. The systems that, let's punch it in. First step, full stop. Second step, full stop. DR is J. That's the sound, J. So now third, drive. Now it's important you don't stop the when you're doing the punch-in. It's You see how I'm forcing it? I'm really trying hard to continue the in the background. So drive, our behave, and now we have y. Why is the y there? Because it's your behaviors. It's your. ORCA tells you which sound is coming out of the That's why the bracket is over the R, always, because it tells you what to punch in. Here you're punching in Y, y. So behaviors. But our, yeah, were our. Our is actually ow and were. Our, so there's a W to remind you to punch in the W. Our goal is to think differently, so for differently, about others, ourselves, were, there's that were, ourselves, while working, there's the were, abroad, so abroad, our goal, and this ear, so year. So just do a E, double time, really wide E, punch it into the So year, series, ear, series is not to teach you what to think, but how to think about the par, O-R. Interesting, the aw is one of our triggers. So aw, even though we put AW there, it's actually the drop the jaw. It's the same exact symbol, but we write it up top. So particular. Particular. Culture, we know chur, of your, were, destination, or people with whom you are, there's that drop the jaw again, were working with. Incredible. You're getting there. So practice that on your own to see if you can punch in all the letters. And finally, we have the famous liaison. So basically, to identify this system, every time you see the arrow, we are carrying the sound. So we have cultures in. If the word starts with a vowel, but the last word before it ended with a consonant, so cultures ends with S, and in begins with a vowel, you will start the word with the last consonant. So how do we begin to learn about? Nabout is the sound. Cultures in, not cultures in, cultures in. The most Teffective is the sound. It's amazing. Teffective way. Data gathering as you is the sound. As you may get in books. Absor, or on. Ron is the sound. Apsor, soar is the sound. Soar on is the sound. Apsor on the internet. We'll give you facts, but data alone is, so nis is the sound. Data alone is like numbers without an equation. Without an equation. Nequation or nequation. Remember, equation is a special word. So nequation or nequation. It's the same thing, but it has to carry over. Nequation. Without an equation. We need a story. Need a story. You see that? We need to bring together the critical data only after. Believe it or not, that's the sound. Only after. Did you know there was yafter in there? Only after. Only after we have understood. Understood is the sound. We have understood the systems that drive our. Vour is the sound. Drive our behaviors. Our goal is, Liz is the sound. To think differently about. Yabout is the sound. Think differently about. About the. Others zand. Zand is the sound. And ourselves. Ourselves is the sound. Others and ourselves. 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 Think about that. While working abroad. Our goal in this series is not to teach you. Chew is the sound. Not to teach you what to think, but how to think about. Think about. It's not think about. Never again say think about. What are you thinking about? Well, I think about. No, I think about. Kabout. I think about the particular culture of. Rov. Your destination nor people with whom you are working. So that's your liaisons. This is not a complete set of instructions. You'll need to work with somebody, hopefully either online or with a teacher. Any teacher's fine. One of ours will help you specifically with this technique. But look at how much information there is for you to work with, but only 9 sounds to memorize. So if you can learn those 9 sounds, you have access to hundreds of thousands of corrections you can make yourself. So let's continue on.